Good morning, class. Today we will start our next lecture in business communication, and the chapter is process of communication. So we'll see the types of communication here. It is now understandable that communication is a two-way process. However, there can be one-way communication also. One-way communication is made only when the sender is sending and the receiver is getting the message. However, there is no feedback. So any kind of communication wherein there is no feedback, you've been given, or rather somebody has been told to do something and they have not been asked for an advice, for a suggestion, that can be a one-way communications. Let's see here. What are some of the examples of one-way communication? It can be a morning newspaper. You receive a newspaper, you read it, and that's it. You cannot give a feedback. Sometimes we see there is a spelling mistake in some of the articles. We cannot give a feedback. So that is a one-way communication. They are communicating to you, but there is no feedback that can be given. A billboard message. We see advertising messages, billboard messages on every road. So that is a one-way communication from the manufacturer, from the organization to us, to consumers. A weather report on television. Ingredients on a food items. When you take any food item, you see the ingredients. What does it say? They are communicating to you how this food is to be cooked. So, but we cannot give a feedback. Advertising, as I said. Some examples of two-way communication. While speaking on a telephone, social media marketing, instant messaging. So these are two-way communications. We speak on a telephone, we're speaking to someone who can talk to us, who can advise us, who can suggest us. So this is two-way. Social media marketing. Twitter these days is a very good example of two-way communication. You give a message and you have an instant feedback, you have an instant reply from any person anywhere in the world. Instant messaging like Viber, WhatsApp these days. The communication environment. Each of us live in an environment of signs, and these signs are with us throughout the day. This is known as communication environment. We can easily detect these signs, and our ability to detect these signs varies. So what are some of the examples? Sign detection, sensory limitations, selective perception, varying alertness and perception. So I would say that every person is talking, we are communicating, we are talking. So if you see, everybody is communicating something or the other to each one of us. This is the communication environment, and definitely we can detect these signs. However, the signs varies. It varies. It can depend on us. It can depend on the environment, but the sign varies. So let's see the first example of the communication environment, which is sign detection. What does sign detection means? It is a sign, any kind of sign while communicating. If two people are communicating, for example, and what will be the communication environment? I'm talking to you. If there is a voice from another room, that is the communication environment. If there is a vehicle going and there is that noise that is coming while we are speaking to each other, that is the communication environment. If a dog is barking, that is the environment. So there are lots of voices and noise. This is called the communication environment. Sensory limitations. Okay, so what do we have? We have sensors. We have 5 senses in our body. So we have sensors to rather to hear it, to smell it, to see it. We see things, we hear things, we smell or odor, but these sensors, our sensors have limitations. What limitations do we have? You can hear voices, definitely. For example, there are many people sitting in a room, they are talking to each other, and there is something going on outside. Do we hear that? We do not hear that. There is a limitation, there is a limit to our sensors. Uh, Actually, things are going on at the back, but we do not hear that. So, that is sensory limitations. Selective perception. We hear, we see, we smell, or anything that we want to hear, we want to see. For example, uh, I do not like a person, and that person is sitting next to me. I don't want to see, I don't want to wish that person. What would I do? I would just ignore. So this is what selective perception means. We select our, we see our choices. Whatever we like, we see that. Whatever we hate or we don't like, we tend to ignore it. So that is called selective perception. Varying alertness and perception. Again, we're in a class, you're sitting in a class, and uh, the subject that is being instructed on, that is being taught, you are not very much interested in that. So what would you do? You would tend to look here and there, and so your alertness for that particular subject is varying. You're not very sure whether you want to listen to that, or you don't want to listen. So this is called varying alertness and perception. Again, perception plays a very important role. We would see, we would hear anything that we want to hear. We would ignore which is not likable to us. If somebody is telling you something, you would hear the part of the sentence that you like. You may ignore the one that you don't like. Somebody is giving you a feedback, you would like the feedback which is good, but something is bad, you tend to ignore that. This is the communication environment. We come to the communication process. The goal of communication is to convey information, we know that, and the understanding of that information from one person or group to another person or group. This is very important in communication. If I tell you something, you don't understand it, so that the communication process doesn't have any meaning. This communication process is divided into three basic components. A sender transmits a message through a channel to the receiver. Thus, the sender develops an idea into a message, and it is then transmitted to the other party, who interprets the message and receives meaning. Developing a message is known as encoding, and interpreting the message is referred as decoding. The other important features are the feedback cycle and the medium or channel of communication. So we go back here. What exactly is in the communication process? A sender, a receiver. This is what we know as of now. However, in between, the sender is sending the message. How does the sender send the message? There must be something through which it is being sent to the receiver. This is called the channel. And it's an idea that the sender is developing into a message. He or she has some idea in his mind, and that is being transmitted to the receiver. The receiver receives the message, decodes it. The sender encodes. The sender has an idea. He encodes it and sends it as a message to the receiver. The receiver receives the message, decodes it to his or her understanding, interprets it, and works toward it. The other important features are the feedback cycle. So feedback cycle, why do you think feedback cycle is important? Because sender has sent the message, receiver has received it. How do we know that the receiver has correctly understood it? This is known by the feedback. So this is a flow chart. This is a graphic representation. We see the sender has an idea. The sender encodes the idea. into a message, sends it through a signal. What transmission? What does transmission? It can be, this is the channel of communication. It can be written, it can be oral, it can be through an email. So these are the mediums of communication. And oral communication can be more informal, because I'm talking to you, I can be informal in my way, rather in while speaking I can be informal. However, while writing, while sending an email, you cannot be informal. You cannot write something. Yes, you can write to a friend, but while working in an organization and writing an email, it should be in proper format. So it's been sent through a medium to the recipient. The receiver receives it, decodes it, the receiver interprets the meaning. The receiver understands the meaning of that communication, of that message that has been sent, and then gives a feedback. The sender may also give a feedback, the receiver may also give a feedback. So this is the communication process through which the sender and the receiver both work together to achieve a goal. These are some of the questions here. You can work on it, and this is about. Thank you for watching. I'll be soon back with another lecture. Bye.